Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner today from the home office. So I hope the sound is okay and the speed is also okay. It can be a little slow sometime with these recordings. It is Friday the 27th of October and let's just get cracking with this technical update on a day where US sold off heavily, more than 1% down in S&P 500. Below the 41.95. Next support, there's some support around 4,100, just around that level as you can see here. But there is a potential lower to around 4,050, which is the lower part of this consolidation area here, going back to earlier this year in April, May. So I think we will get there. All indicators pointing to that level. Maybe not today, but most likely into next week. We are trading up a little bit pre-market here, so there is a chance that we can bounce a little bit this morning when we open in US. We have. Oh, sorry, that was the. Excuse me. That was the Dow Jones. We can also have a look at that, but. Let's just start with Nasdaq here that broke below 14,254. That was a minor support, not very strong ones. We are closing in on the 200 daily moving average coming up here. It is not the strongest support. I would say there's more strong support around 13,590, around that level here down here. So I think we'll dip down there around possibly today, but I think more likely going into next week. You can see here the indicators are really pointing lower. What is going to be interesting both on S&P 500 and all indices for that matter, but also on Nasdaq, what will it do here on the weekly on the RSI? So that's going to be really interesting going into next week. Let's just have a quick look at Dow Jones since I now clicked on it. It is actually testing or closed just a few dollars above the 32,764 support level that are also back here from over the summer. So I expect a little bit of a bounce there. Moving on to European as usual, we have the EUROSTOXX 50 hovering around just above the 4,000 level. I think we could see maybe a little bit of a correction, but there is a lot of news coming out, earnings reports coming out around Europe. NatWest is being sold off heavily. Sanofi in France is sold off heavily after disappointing numbers. So it weighs, of course, on the indices. But we have EUROSTOXX 50 here around the 4,034, 35 level. But there is, I think it's fair to say, I think we will see a little bit of a bounce here, maybe later today. We are ripe for a little bit of correction. And you can also see here why these levels are very important, because if we break below the 4,000, I know we have dipped below, but a close below, well, then there's not really much holding it until around 3,800. And the RSI on weekly is in a bearish trend. DAX is bouncing a little bit today, not much, but a little bit. 14,675 is a support. If it closes below that, then we have a little bit here at 14,458. As you can see here also on the weekly, why this is so important. If we do close below these levels, well, then there's not really much holding it until well below 14,000. So maybe we could have a little bit of a correction here early next week, maybe. AX 710 seems to be holding on. We are back above 15. We could bounce up to around 730, but I'm not quite sure we'll get all the way up there. The Belgian market, where we have it actually touched the maybe even dipped below the lows from last year. So it's really a weak market in Belgium, but I think we'll see a little bit of a bounce here the next couple of days, going into next week. CAC is suffering today with the Sanofi earnings that was really bad, sending it lower. So it is about to test the 6,796 support again, and that is really bad for CAC. If it does close above below it, then there's not really not much holding it either neither on the long term or medium term, so we could potentially move lower. The FX market has been fairly quiet overnight, so I'll just take some of the highlights. Euro dollar fairly quiet, testing the falling trend line here from the upper side after breaking out. Let's see if it can move higher towards the 106 and 35 and the 107 here next couple of days. I have my doubts. We are in a downtrend, and if it breaks below the falling trend line here and the rising trend line on the RSI, I think we will see a retest of the lows. Moving on to cable sterling dollar. Still holding on about 120.40 level here, which is the October lows. So we are a little bit of a limbo here. I think we can see quite a bit of volatility between these two levels here. Really hard to say anything intelligent about the direction. I want to break out before I see something, or before I say something about it. Keep an eye on the RSI. Will it actually bounce from the 40 level, or will it break below? We have dollar yen that actually did break above the 150, 1560 resistance level, but it is really struggling for momentum. So I think it's going to be a hard one to move higher. I mean, there is room up to 152, but it is really struggling at the moment. So maybe it has been stretched a little bit. We can also see massive divergence on the RSI, not really helping it either. So it's definitely a sign of a weakening of a trend. Euro yen still this 159.76 resistance. Same picture on Aussie yen. 95.85. It bounced off this lower rising trend line here, so it's just getting narrower and narrower in there. I still believe on the other side. Other than that, interesting stuff happened in the dollar index yesterday, where it actually did spike above the resistance at 106.57, but closed below. I want to see a close above before I call and move to 107.90. If it slides back lower, well, 105.34 is the support level to look out for. Moving on to commodities and gold spots. Closed just a few cents below the key resistance at 1985. Trying again today. It is still ripe for a correction, and there is still a potential for a correction down to 1945, potentially 1925, before we see the next move up. However, it looks fairly strong, so it's really hard to say which direction. I mean, we have a bullish RSI, no divergence. We should move higher, but there's still room for a correction, or potential for a correction. So keep an eye on that, or be aware of that. We have silver, a little bit of a limbo after correcting the 38.2 retracement here around 22.5. I think it will be a little bit of a struggle to take out the key resistance at 23.78, but that's the one you should observe. And very quickly on copper, really not doing much after bouncing from the 354.50 level, and that's still the level to look out for. We have seen it so many times trying to move higher. We need at least to break this falling trend line and the 55 moving average before it will gain any meaningful upside momentum. On the energy side, we have WTI crude oil still holding on above the 81.50, dancing around the 78.6 retracement of this little bounce here. So we are in a bit of a limbo. I want to see it back above the 55 moving average and back above the cloud before I believe we will move higher. It's more or less the same picture on Brent, really. We have it's still well above its support at 83.44, dancing around the 61.8 retracement. So it's also a little bit in a limbo. And let's have a look at the Henry Hub natural gas. That is really, it has taken off yesterday, and it seems to follow through today. 363 resistance is the key one here on the short term that it could take out, and let's zoom in and see why. then if I just do this, you can see it's just some resistance back here earlier this year. So that's where we are probably going to see some resistance also. But we are in an uptrend on Henry Hub natural gas, and it is in an uptrend also on the medium term. Moving on to the US 10-year. That is also a little bit of a limbo at the moment. And let's zoom in and see what's going on. So it failed to break higher on the 5%, 5 or 1% previous peak here. And it is just above 480. I want to see a breakout of these two levels here, either one of them for direction. If it takes out to the upside, well, then we are looking at 520, 515, 520, maybe a little bit more. If it drops below 480, well, then we are talking about 470, possibly down to 462. All right, that's all for today, and have a nice weekend. Talk to you again Monday.